What's up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vanity. I'm all about love. I just want to see you in. You are watching a series I have titled Returning to Love. This is part 2. We are going to be talking about what love is not. I want to help you break through any unhealthy attachment, fantasies, or false hope that you may be carrying or holding on to. This is going to be more of a tough love type of conversation, but I do believe it's going to sober you up in the best way. Not everything that feels intense is love, and not everything or every person that you miss is healthy. In this video, we're talking about all the counterfeits of love. Again, what love is not. Talking about the things that really do keep us emotionally bound long after something has ended. In each part, I give you 2 teachings, one of them supporting the Bible, one of them supporting psychology. So in this video, I'm going to teach you the biblical definition of love. And then we're going to get into the psychological attachments that masquerade as love, like trauma bonding, limerence, all the things that create intensity without security. God's love that is steady, trying to hold on to that while dealing with a brain that confuses emotional highs and lows with intimacy and with connection takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discernment. It takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of experiences. A lot of our connections don't end cleanly. They linger or they echo, or you keep them alive, right? You ruminate. You keep them alive in your thoughts, conversations, so your brain can know something is over, but your nervous system is still going to be emotionally attached to it. Again, like I was saying earlier, basically trying to find that balance between what love is and what love is not, recognizing that, and then really learning how to navigate through that in the most healthy way. Like we talked about in part 1, we are wired for love. We are capable of connection. We are built for relationship, quite literally. So it's important that you learn how to establish these connections in a healthy way. Now, the thing about intensity and pain, this toxic love that we often see and that's often glorified, rather it is by example of our parents, subliminally, or just subconsciously, we are taught that if something hurts so much, if something feels so strong, if something pulls out your heart so heavy, it has to be love. So these counterfeits that we're going to talk about, these counterfeits of love, these are the things that feel powerful, feel consuming, they feel meaningful, but they keep us emotionally bound long after something has ended. And this is not about blame. This is not about regret. This is not about judging your past. It's not about judging ourselves. It's not about shaming yourself. It's not about blaming yourself, being hard on yourself and telling yourself you were wrong for having feelings for somebody or loving deeply or, maybe falling for a counterfeit. And it's all just a learning process. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of us, we stay attached to people, not because it was healthy, but literally just because it was intense. We stay because of the emotional bond and how consuming it was. We stay because of the trauma bonding. We stay because of the highs and lows. We stay because of potential. We stay because of hope. Intensity feels really deep. Urgency and anxiousness, it feels important. Longing, right? Or desperation. Desperation can feel like a connection. But a lot of times, the hot and cold, the push and pull, the intensity, the back and forth, it's all just a form of instability, unmet needs, wounds that maybe haven't been identified. It comes from people with different attachment issues, clinging to each other, so on and so forth. So if you were not raised, right, to create healthy attachment, or no one has ever taught you the difference, you are not foolish for confusing the two at all. You are not foolish at all. And a lot of times a general question that we can ask ourselves is simply, what were we attached to? Was I attached to love or was I attached to potential? Was I attached to a connection or was I attached to a relief from feeling lonely? Was it the intimacy or did I just need emotional survival? I mean, the list goes on and on. As y'all know, we can't heal what we don't name. So you have to ask yourself that question and really sit with what it was you were attached to instead of, going into this spiral of where you went wrong or where they went wrong or where you weren't good enough or where they weren't good enough or where you were disappointed and etc. Now, majority of us, if not all of us, we all know what it's like to be in an unhealthy relationship. It does not matter who it's with. Rather, it is an unhealthy relationship with a family member, a friend, a romantic partner. Some are more toxic than others. Some are more intense than others. Some are longer than others. I mean, everyone's circumstance will always look different. Everybody has their own unique story, but for the most part, we all get it. We all understand what it's like to be emotionally, mentally, spiritually attached to somebody we shouldn't be with. Now, what that journey itself looks like, again, that differs. And a lot of us either continue to date our patterns and we keep falling into the same things and we don't grow, or sometimes we don't take the time out to really try to heal through, all the trauma and all the wounds that we have. Some of us do, and then we find better, and it's a beautiful love story at the end. Some of us experience both worlds, some of us struggle at first, find a beautiful love story, and then struggle again. We're all human. Starting off with one, the biblical definition of love. Of course, I'm going to take you to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. What love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. And it keeps no records of any wrongs. So important to be reminded what love is. You have to understand what love is before you can recognize what love is not. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't pressure you. It respects you. It doesn't threaten to leave or abandon you if you don't comply. Love is kind, meaning that love doesn't wound you repeatedly and call it passion. It's not self-seeking. It doesn't show up for you just when it needs something. Love is not destabilizing. It is not anxiety-inducing. Love is not confusing. It doesn't erase your identity. Love is not self-abandonment. If you have a connection with somebody and it constantly makes you question your worth, feel emotionally unsafe, it is just consistently messing with your nervous system, shrinking your needs, abandoning your values, making you abandon your values. That actually a lot of times feels normal, feels powerful. It feels like the chaos you're used to. It feels like the norm to your nervous system, depending on the type of trauma that you've had. Because it's so consuming, like I said earlier, it feels like there's a connection. It feels important, especially with my Christian girlies with the savior complex. It feels spiritual at times. It feels like you are supposed to save them, that you are supposed to heal them and be the God in their life. But according to scripture, that's not love. God's definition of love will always move you towards peace and clarity and dignity and wholeness, not chaos disguised as connection. You have to also remember intensity is not the same as intimacy. Intimacy comes from consistency. Intensity comes from the uncertainty. Intensity keeps you guessing. It keeps that push and pull. It keeps your reward system activated, but more of in a survival mode kind of way. Intimacy, it lets you rest. Intensity, it does spike your nervous system, but intimacy will regulate it. So love doesn't make you consistently feel like you are having to earn safety. It is just something that you dwell in that just exists. So if you have to disappear, if you have to withdraw, if you have to threaten, if you have to manipulate to keep somebody in your life, it is not love. Point blank. Period. Now, some of these psychological attachments that masquerade themselves as love. I want to talk about trauma bonding, limerence, and emotional dependency. Trauma bonding forms through emotional highs and lows. Moments of closeness followed by distance, withdrawal, conflict, or pain, followed by connection, and then relief comes again. And over time, your nervous system gets conditioned to this. Bond is strengthening, not because it's healthy, but only because your body learns to associate relief with connection. So when they pull away, you suffer. When they return, you feel calm. And your brain mistakes that relief for love. And so that's not intimacy, that's just survival, right? And when you are trying to break that trauma bond, of course, it's going to feel like a withdrawal. And when you are trauma bonding with somebody, when you are connecting only over the things that negatively impact you, that also creates so much room to fall into a victim complex, which brings in so much guilt, so much pressure, this need again to save, this very anxious attachment, so many emotional highs and lows. But again, it's just your brain mistaking relief for love. If the only way that you feel like you can breathe and be happy and be joyful and like feel centered is if that person is either giving you attention or loving you or in your life, that means you have trauma bonded to them. And this oftentimes, the longer that you are in situations that you have no business being in, that is also what creates the limerence. Now, you can also deal with that limerence while in an unhealthy relationship, but with this limerence comes with this intense emotional fixation on a fantasy or what coulda, shoulda, woulda happened. It creates this longing, and you start now yearning for the wrong things, and it wastes so much emotional energy, and it takes so much of your headspace. You get attached more to the potential, who they could be, who they might be, the version of them that you created in your head, the future you hope for, than to who they are consistently showing you in real time. Thing is, limerence thrives on uncertainty. It's delusion. It feeds into possibilities. Again, it doesn't matter what you're seeing in real life right in front of you. You are imagining so much more. And you're either imagining painful things or loving things. Either way, it keeps you attached. And it feels intoxicating because it is, but it's unstable. If you're going to take away anything from this video, take away this. Love lives in reality. Limerence lives in imagination. Moving on to that emotional dependency. Somebody could not be in your life, and because you are so stuck in that delusion, in that imagination, and because you still want to give it so much of your energy, you'll still find yourself emotionally dependent on them, and they're not even somebody physically in your life. What gets super dangerous about this is emotional dependency. It happens when somebody else is your primary source of validation, emotional regulation, identity, and meaning. Again, if their presence calms you, but their absence destabilizes you, this is a dependent issue. And dependency feels like love because it feels necessary. But remember, love is not self-abandonment. Love does not require erasing yourself in order to survive. Now, this doesn't make you weak. We've all been here, done that. It just means that your nervous system is just always outsourcing safety if it doesn't know it. And if somebody is not in your life and you are still emotionally depending on them, right? Because you are still looking for that validation, because you are still looking for them to make you feel safe, that is when you start falling into real spirals in life. This is what creates depression. This is what creates that obsession. You're always checking for them online, or you're always trying to figure out what they're doing, or you're just always waiting to see if they're going to break no contact, or you're always waiting to see if they're going to communicate with you, or you're always waiting to see if they're going to come back. You're always playing these narratives and storylines, visions in your head. So, navigating through those things, the trauma bonding and limerence and being emotionally bonded to somebody, that can keep you stuck for a very long time. What started off as a fling, or it started off as something fun and exciting, is now 5-10 years down the line. Or what started off as something that you swore you would never get involved in again is now 6 months in. Now you're a year, now you're having such a hard time removing yourself from the situation. As we know, time flies, and we could so easily get caught up in very unhealthy situations and in survival mode and in excitement and chaos, because again, either that's all we know, or that's what we're used to, or we just have not taken those steps to really heal accordingly. Let's not ever forget that God's love is steady. It is not chaotic. Love, it doesn't spike and crash. It doesn't disappear to test you. It doesn't punish you with silence. It doesn't make you beg for reassurance. Love regulates you. It does not dysregulate you. So if a connection consistently pulls you into anxiety, confusion, or desperation, it may be time to stop calling it love and start calling it what it is, which is a counterfeit. Now, the thing is, in these counterfeits, the feelings are real. They're very valid. So it's going to feel like a withdrawal regardless. And it's not about denying what you felt or denying the connection or, downplaying emotions or trying to pretend that, somebody wasn't important to you. You need to remember that intensity on its own, it's not a trustworthy guide. So ultimately in this part, I really want you to get in your word and reflect on what love is. Because remember, we have to know what love is so we can recognize what love is not. Love is not the limerence and the trauma bonding and the emotional dependency. Love is not the intensity. Love is not the way you act and attach out of survival mode. So if this stirred something up in you, whether it was clarity, resistance, pause for a moment and just understand that the awareness of all this, it's not rejection. It really is the beginning of healing. Because sometimes, I know in my experience, once you really sit down and start to recognize all of the counterfeits that you either accepted in your life or experienced in your life, all the ways that you provided counterfeit love, because it goes both ways. When you really sit down and just unpack that and really see that for what it is, and really see how much of what love is not that you have practiced and been a part of, that can create a lot of grief, especially when you get to a point where you have more self-esteem and more self-worth and more self-respect. Sometimes it's easy to look back and feel just so much shame and embarrassment. Like, oh my God, I really, like the lack of standard and the lack of love and the lack of respect and the lack of peace that I used to think was love. You know what I mean? Like that self-awareness sometimes can be really sad, and it could be easy to feel sad about yourself, but we're not going to do that. Awareness of this is not a rejection of love. It's not a rejection to you. It is really just the beginning of a great healing journey. Just hold on to this thought. Not everything powerful is love. Love will never require you to disappear. You're allowed to choose what's real. The two questions, the two things that I want you to reflect on is, what did the last relationship that broke your heart, what did that awaken in you? I want you to think, and I want you to reflect on how you were loving that person. Were you loving that person in a healthy way? Because a lot of times, especially when dealing with what love is not in counterfeits, we don't like to call a spade a spade. We don't like to really accept things for what they are, because it is a hard truth. And because we connect and attach so deeply, it almost feels like we're creating more of a heartbreak for ourselves. Grieving and getting back to yourself and returning back to love, it takes you looking at the bigger picture of things and just honoring the fact that, it wasn't healthy, and it is what it is. And this is why it wasn't healthy. And this was my part in it. And these are the things within me that I want to better, or that I want to start healing, or that I want to start outgrowing, or that I want to start unlearning, so I can better set myself up for successful, healthy, loving relationships in the future, so that, you don't continue the same patterns, and that you don't continue the same cycles. So I hope part 2 was very helpful to you. And the next part 3, we're going to be talking about how God heals the brokenhearted. So I'll see you in the next video.